Hello and welcome to bus number 404, a useful temporary service for the summer months that runs between Bangor and Newcastle. Today we'll be taking advantage of this service to get straight to our destination of Dundrum Castle, a fortification perched atop a hill 200 feet high overlooking the waters of Dundrum Bay below. Before we get there, let's first appreciate the rolling green hills of the countryside and the slices of civilization in the towns and villages we pass through. That levelled area covered in debris was a dye works. I have many memories of exploring its dark and probably asbestos-filled interior with friends long ago, and finding an office full of documents and newspapers dating from the 1960s. This tranquil crossing of the River Coyle was the site of a battle in 1689 between forces supporting James II and those supporting William of Orange. Here in Downpatrick is the supposed resting site of St. Patrick, and has an exhibition centre dedicated to Ireland's patron saint. It is also the home of the Downpatrick and County Down Heritage Railway, a place I'm still yet to visit.
Yes, that's it. About. Thank you.
These small pieces of track were an unexpected but welcome surprise. The chairs display the initials of the Belfast and County Down Railway, as well as the Great Northern Railway, whose nearest line was about 5 kilometres to the west. Just like many defensive structures, Dundrum Castle was built on top of an earlier fortification, this one being an Irish circular stone-walled enclosure called a cashel. Plonked in what was the Outer Bailey, this 17th century house was built by the Blundell family who had come into possession of the land. Unfortunately for them, during the wars that consumed these islands in the middle of the same century, their new home along with the castle was seized and used as a military garrison. Once all the chaos had settled down and the soldiers dispersed, the family didn't bother to return, as the building had apparently been destroyed by the parliamentarian forces of the English Civil War. In 2012, a lime kiln was discovered on this spot, which was used to produce the quicklime for mortar and lime wash for plastering the bare stone walls. This path we're taking obviously didn't exist back in the day. Here we approach the gatehouse that separated the outer bailey with the inner bailey, and would have been the second line of defence should the former be breached. A knight by the name of John de Courcy took part in the 12th century Anglo-Norman invasion of Ireland. In 1177 he defeated the King of Ulla, whose domain mostly included the modern-day counties of Antrim and Down. After taking these lands for himself, de Courcy acted to secure a tight grip on the region by constructing Carrickfergus Castle and Dundrum Castle. We don't know exactly when de Courcy's earliest features of Dundrum were built, but we can assume he wouldn't have waited very long. This area is quite some distance from his main power base at Carrickfergus after all. The hole up there is the original entrance to the keep, which was accessed by a wooden staircase that could be destroyed for a final defence if the enemy had invaded the inner bailey. De Courcy's rule over these lands would end rather abruptly. His influence and wealth was growing, and with it King John was becoming ever more suspicious and distrustful of him, with evidence that de Courcy was minting his own coinage. In addition, before John became king, he had attempted to usurp the crown from his brother Richard, and de Courcy had refused to support him. As such, with the king's blessing, fellow Anglo-Norman Hugh de Lacy fought, defeated, captured and exiled de Courcy in 1204. Hugh de Lacy was then made the first Earl of Ulster. Understandably, de Courcy wasn't too happy about this sudden collapse in social status. So, in 1205, he mustered up an army, landed at Strangford, then besieged Dundrum Castle in an attempt to reconquer his conquered territory from de Lacy. It was a failure. However, he must have experienced some level of schadenfreude when, by 1210, Hugh de Lacy himself had also fallen foul of the infamously stubborn King John, and the king took direct control of both Dundrum and Carrickfergus castles, exiling de Lacy in the process. Beneath our feet is a large cistern which supplied the people here with water. Unlike John de Courcy, Hugh de Lacy did manage to retrieve his castle when, long after King John had performed his once selfless act by dying, Henry III granted the earldom to de Lacy once again in 1227. It's easy to imagine the conquest of Ireland as a continuous expansion of English control, but on multiple occasions their grip slipped and the land passed back to the native Irish. By the 16th century, much of the medieval gains had been lost, with English rule reduced to a few pockets along the east coast. From the 14th to the 16th centuries, the Irish McGuinness clan had possession of Dundrum Castle. A fun exercise when looking at the ruins of old structures is piecing together the timeline of visible features. For example, this dent in the wall is a toilet, which would have had to be within a building, but the giant circular keep is blocking where the building should be, therefore the toilet is older than the keep. After the mid-17th century conflicts left the buildings in a poor state, the castle seems to go quiet for the following centuries. In the 1800s it fell into the possession of the Marquess of Downshire, and the abundant trees nearby were planted, something unthinkable if you still wanted to maintain a clear view of approaching enemies. Nowadays Dundrum is state-owned and completely free to visit, and even featured in an episode of the archaeology show Time Team.
Welcome to Dundrum, one of the most picturesque locations in the whole of Northern Ireland.
But I'll let you go now. See ya.